that you're able to join us for this exciting announcement. My name is Carrie Ebersol Singh, and I'm the director of the Protect Michigan Commission. In January, Governor Whitmer appointed our commission to support the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services in efforts to ensure every Michigander has a plan to get vaccinated against COVID-19. The appointees represent a diverse array of industries, professions, and backgrounds. I am super excited and proud to be joined today by our state and national medical experts, health leaders, and parents who are eager to share more about the promising news that the Pfizer COVID-19 vaccine is now available to teens, 12 to 15-year-olds. And I gotta tell you, this mother of an almost 4-year-old can't wait as we see additional approvals or authorizations coming down the pike for younger children. But today we celebrate those 12 to 15-year-olds. So this wonderful news comes on the heels of Michigan celebrating our first milestone on the Back to Normal plan. That's right, we've completed over now 55% of Michiganders having received at least one dose of the COVID vaccine. That's more than 4.2 million people. And now with a new age group that has access to the safe and effective vaccine, today we'll hear more from our Chief Medical Executive, Dr. Jonay Caldoun, as well as Veronica McNally, who is president of the Franny Strong Foundation and founder of the Vaccinate campaign. She is also the only voting member from Michigan on the CDC's Advisory Committee on Immunization Practices. We're also joined today by Lisa Sanchez Metropolis, a Genesee County mom of 2 kids, one of whom is at high risk for complications from COVID and is now eligible for the vaccine. She'll share her family's story. And finally, an old friend, but someone that keeps leading in our state and across the nation, Dr. Mona HannaAttah, pediatrician and director of the Michigan State University and Hurley Children's Hospital Pediatric Public Health Initiative. And we're lucky to have her as a co-chair of the Protect Michigan Commission, and is joining us from a vaccination clinic in Bloomfield Hills, Michigan, where her 12 and 15-year-old daughters will receive the Pfizer vaccine live on camera to close out today's events. I also want to know that all of today's speakers are parents of kids who are now eligible for the Pfizer vaccine, and they are all eager to share why this is so important, not only for our state, but also for our families and communities. It's another step forward to normalcy for all of us. A few housekeeping items before we get started. Please feel free to place your questions in the Q&A feature. We will also conclude today's event by answering your questions. You are permitted to record this event, and we will have a recording available on demand after the fact as well. This event is being streamed on the MDHHS Facebook page, but you are already allowed to stream it on your pages as well. At the conclusion of today's events, we will send the press release out, accompanied by a county-by-county breakdown of how many 12 to 15-year-olds that are now eligible to get vaccinated. So with that, let's get to our Chief Medical Executive for the state of Michigan, Dr. Caldoun.
Good morning, and thank you so much, Carrie. As a mother, as a physician, I'm really just thrilled to be here with medical colleagues today on the heels of this really important decision to authorize the Pfizer vaccine for adolescents aged 12 to 15. Again, I'm a mother of 2 children in that age group, so it's really an exciting day. So I want to talk a little bit about the rigorous process that has to happen for a vaccine to get to this point. And so the authorization process for all vaccines really includes a rigorous review of data from clinical trials. And that process has not changed at all for COVID-19. So once the FDA actually reviews the findings of these clinical trials, if the data are robust and they actually show without a doubt that the benefit of the vaccine outweighs any potential harms for a particular demographic, then they authorize it. And so that is what has happened with the Pfizer vaccine, with the other COVID-19 vaccines. So then what happens is after that, the Advisory Committee on Immunization Practices, or ACIP, which you've heard a lot about throughout the past several months, they actually meet and do their own robust review of the data as well. And so ACIP is a really, really important committee. They actually have many medical and public health experts on it. They review the science, they review the data for efficacy, and importantly, for safety as well. And so I also think it's important to note that this committee is very, very independent. So in fact, people who are directly employed or who have an immediate family member who's directly employed by a vaccine manufacturer, if they hold a patent on a vaccine, if they serve on a board of directors of a vaccine manufacturer, they actually can't even sit on this committee. So that's really important because that means there's no conflict of interest, and they can make sure that the data that they are reviewing is being reviewed in an unbiased manner. So yesterday, the ACIP unanimously voted that the Pfizer vaccine should be used in this age group, age 12 to 15. And really importantly, and again, I say this as a parent, they also recommended that the vaccine could be given at the same time or even on the same day as other vaccines. So really, really important point. We want our kids to not only get the COVID vaccine, but we have also seen our vaccination rates for other preventable diseases go down during the pandemic. And so now we can tell our parents, you can make a single appointment and you can go to your medical provider and get your child caught up on all of their immunizations all at once, which is, again, just so, so important. So yesterday's recommendation from ACIP is really just great news. Michigan, we now, across the entire state, children aged 12 to 15 can start getting a vaccine. That's just under 500,000 additional people, 500,000 kids aged 12 to 15 who just became eligible for vaccination. And that gets us even closer to being able to end this pandemic. That means fewer kids who will need to quarantine, fewer kids who will need to regularly get tested, and we will protect our kids, importantly, from getting ill or passing this on to others. So really, we really just can't continue to move forward and fully re-engage unless we're able to fight this virus back, and vaccines are still really our best chance. So I am asking every primary care provider across the entire state to enroll as a vaccine provider. We are trying to make it as simple as possible to get the vaccine. You can order it yourself. You can work with your local health department. For parents, if you still have questions about the vaccine, I encourage you to talk to your child's healthcare provider, make an appointment to get them vaccinated as soon as possible. You can also visit ivaccinate.org or michigan.gov/COVID vaccine for more information. So I'm excited about the announcement today. These vaccines are they're just the path forward to doing the things that we love with the people that we love. And so with that, I will turn it over to Veronica McNally, president of the Fannie Strong Foundation.
Good morning. My name is Veronica McNally, and I am the founder of the iVaccinate campaign. iVaccinate is dedicated to providing parents with credible scientific information about vaccines and vaccine-preventable diseases. I began this advocacy effort because I lost my daughter, Francesca Marie, to pertussis, a vaccine-preventable respiratory disease. I'm here today to add my voice to encourage parents to get their adolescents vaccinated against COVID-19. I thought it might be helpful if I talked to you about two specific issues today. So first, I'll provide some background information about COVID in this age group. And second, I'll provide some information about the vaccine itself. There is significant disease burden in this age group. Between March of 2020 and April of 2021, there have been 1.5 million cases of coronavirus among adolescents aged 12 to 17, and over 13,000 hospitalizations and 127 deaths. 61% of hospitalized adolescents with COVID-19 had an underlying medical condition, such as obesity, asthma, or diabetes. And I just want to mention that yesterday, the CDC reported that if you adjust for underreporting, the incidence is 22.2 million infection in kids aged 5 to 17. You may have heard about MIS-C. MIS-C is an inflammatory syndrome in children associated with COVID-19. As of May 3rd, 3,742 MIS-C cases have been reported to national surveillance. When I think about MIS-C as a parent, I find it a bit nerve-wracking because it appears 2 to 4 weeks after the onset of COVID-19, and substantial numbers of MIS-C patients have had severe complications, including cardiac dysfunction, shock, myocarditis, aneurysm, and acute kidney injury. And many patients with MIS-C are admitted to the intensive care unit. Next, adolescents may contribute to transmission. Adolescents may be more likely to become infected than younger children, and outbreak investigations have demonstrated that adolescents can efficiently transmit COVID, including transmission to older household members and community members. And finally, adolescents represent an increasing proportion of recent COVID-19 cases. Let's talk about the vaccine now. More than 138 million doses of the Pfizer vaccine have been administered in the US. As you've heard, the adolescent clinical trial for the Pfizer vaccine demonstrated 100% efficacy against symptomatic laboratory-confirmed COVID-19. Some side effects, which let us know the vaccine is working, were noted. These included pain at the injection site, more commonly after the first dose, and symptoms like fatigue, headache, and chills were more common after the second dose. Most importantly, symptoms resolved within 1 to 2 days. No cases of anaphylaxis were noted in the clinical trial. And now I want to spend just a minute talking to you about the ongoing and intensive safety monitoring systems in place for the COVID-19 vaccine, and in fact, all vaccines. The US safety monitoring system is able to rapidly detect rare adverse events following vaccination and quickly assess safety signals. There are a number of different systems working at the same time to assist in the ongoing evaluation process. These systems include VSafe, a smartphone-based active monitoring system, which parents can enroll their adolescents in. VAERS, the Vaccine Safety Data Link, with 9 participating integrated healthcare organizations and over 12 million persons per year, and the Clinical Immunization Safety Assessment Project. In closing, I would echo the sentiment that vaccinating adolescents will bring peace of mind to many about a safe return to school and a return to pre-pandemic activities. Survey data indicates that a majority or near majority of parents, that is 46 to 60%, plan to vaccinate their children against COVID-19, and I am one of them. I will vaccinate my children against this disease because the data continue to show that the vaccine is safe and effective, and it will protect my children and others. If you have questions, let us get you answers. Visit us at ivaccinate.org. And with that, I'll hand it back to you, Director Singh.
Thank you, Veronica. Next up, we have Lisa Sanchez, Metropolis. Lisa and her family live in Genesee County, and like many families across Michigan, the past year has been full of challenges. Lisa has a 14-year-old daughter and a 12-year-old son. Her son has a pre-existing condition that puts him at high risk of complications if he contracts COVID. So the past year has been spent at heightened anxiety for her and her family. Lisa, thanks for joining us for today and sharing your story.
Thank you, Director Singh. Good morning. My name is Lisa Sanchez Metropolis, and I live in Genesee County, Michigan, here with my husband and my kids, my 14-year-old daughter, Eliana, and my 12-year-old son, Stavros. Look, this past year has been a really difficult one for my family to navigate. My son, Stavros, has asthma, which puts him at high risk of complications from COVID-19. And throughout the pandemic, we have followed the guidance from health experts to keep our families safe. And for us, every choice we have made has not been based out of fear. It is out of an education and an understanding of what this virus could potentially do to our son. I have 3 brothers and a sister and a very large extended family, and we are all very, very close. And our family, our immediate family, hasn't been able to see them until very recently. And even though my husband and I are vaccinated, we still need to take the daily precautions to make sure that we don't expose Stavros to COVID. And, again, this past year has really just been really emotionally draining, to say the least. Stavros is a soccer and football player, and he participates in Boy Scouts. But over the past year, I feel like all I am saying to him is no. No to sports, no to friends, no to family. And as a mom, to look at him and say that every time he asks to do something or see someone, it's heartbreaking. So when we heard the news that the vaccine would be available to kids 12 and up, I mean, I have to say, honestly, I did a little happy dance and I had tears in my eyes because I wouldn't have to answer his questions about when things could go back to normal with, well, hopefully soon. I could give him a date to look forward to. And I mean, that has been everything. Both of my kids will be vaccinated as soon as possible. And it just feels like a huge, huge weight is lifted off of us. We just have so much to look forward to as a family now. And I just very grateful and thank you so much for letting me share our family story here today. And I'll turn things back over to Director Singh.
Thank you, Lisa. I really appreciate you sharing that story, and much of which a lot of parents are facing this year as we've been combating COVID-19. And yes, the hope that we all have as another segment of Michiganders are able to be vaccinated. So next up, we have our next guest and also co-chair of the Protect Michigan Commission. I'm excited to introduce Dr. Mona HannaAttah. Dr. Mona founded and now directs the Michigan State University and Hurley Children's Hospital Pediatric Health Initiative, which is leading innovative health programs in Flint. She has been awarded the Freedom of Expression Courage Award by PEN America, was named to Time Magazine's 100 Most Influential People in the World, recognized as one of USA Today's Women of the Century, and received the 2020 Fries Prize for Improving Health. In addition, Dr. Mona was appointed by our governor to serve as the co-chair of the Protect Michigan Commission to assist us on this COVID-19 vaccination campaign. And now I get to turn it over to Dr. Mona, who is with her 12 and 15-year-old daughters who are excited to be receiving the Pfizer vaccine today. Dr. Mona?
Thank you, Director Singh. It's great to be here with all of you. It's great to be here with other amazing moms. So I'm usually in front of cameras and with all of you as a pediatrician, as sometimes as a professor, and sometimes as a public health advocate. And I'm still wearing all those hats, but I'm also here with you as a parent, as a mom who has two kids in that 12 to 15 age group. And I'm super excited to be here with my daughters, who in a few minutes will be receiving their first Pfizer vaccine. And they're literally kind of jumping up and down in excitement. They've never asked me before to get a shot. They're not usually fans of shots, but they've been begging to get the shot. So you'll meet my two kids soon. Nina is 15, she's a 9th grader. Layla is 12, she is a 7th grader. And like most kids, and like you already heard, they've missed out on so much this year. In-person school and field trips and sports and summer camps and sleepovers and carpools and play dates, all these things that are critical parts of being just a regular kid. These are important things for normal health and development of children. And when mom got COVID a year ago, they were really worried about what could happen. And when their friends and loved ones continue to get COVID, they still get really worried. They worry about every interaction they have, whether they'll catch a deadly virus or whether they will unknowingly pass it on to others. My kids, like so many kids, they're tired of wearing masks, and they're tired of weekly COVID tests for sports and daily screenings for school. And quarantining after exposures. My older one, Nina, just got out of a 2-week quarantine. And like Lisa said, they're really sick of moms saying no all the time. For my kids and for kids all over, the pandemic has taken a huge toll on their mental and emotional health, on their social well-being, and on their educational experiences. And as a pediatrician, I know that kids also get physically sick with the virus. Can be very severe for some, especially those with underlying conditions like asthma, like obesity, like diabetes. We've heard the numbers. More than 1.5 million kids have been diagnosed with COVID. About 13,000 have been hospitalized. Hundreds of children have died from COVID. And in Michigan, we saw an increase, especially during the spring surge, of hospitalizations of children with COVID. We've also heard about MIS-C. So this is multi-system inflammatory syndrome in children. This is scary, and this is something that we don't really completely understand yet in the medical profession. These are previously well children who about 2 to 5 weeks after having COVID, and sometimes they don't even know they have COVID, will present with severe inflammation in their heart and their brain and their skin all over, and they can have long-term complications from that. Pediatricians are on guard, especially now after the spring surge, to be on the lookout for more cases of MIS-C. And we're also starting to understand long COVID in kids, that kids can for a long time present with things like fatigue, headaches, and chest pain, and rashes, and mood swings. So the potential long-term scars of COVID on our children are yet to be realized. And as a pediatrician, these are things that we're going to have to follow the consequences of for really years after this pandemic. But it doesn't have to be this way anymore. We can prevent all of this with a vaccine, and that's why I'm so excited as a pediatrician and also as a mom. We can go back to normal. Our kids can go back to all those activities that, once again, are so critical for their normal health and development. Our kids just need to be kids. And as pediatricians, vaccines, this is what we do. We give vaccines every single day. And we know that vaccines prevent disease and save lives. And as a pediatrician, I also know how important it is for you to get the facts and to have your questions answered so that you can make the best decisions for your family. I encourage everyone out there to make an appointment to have these critical conversations with your pediatrician or with your healthcare provider. And if I were in clinic with you right now, and if you were sitting in front of me and if you asked me if I should vaccinate my child, if you should vaccinate your child, I would sit down with you, I would listen to your concerns, and I would say, yes, the COVID vaccine is safe, it is effective, it prevents disease, and it saves lives. It is the most important step that we can take to get back to normal. And I would also say, and I say this often when families are hesitant about vaccines, I would also say that I trust this vaccine so much that my own children have gotten this vaccine. And with that, I will turn things over to the medical staff here to administer the Pfizer vaccine to my girls.
No, yeah, you got it.
Absolutely. You go first. Is that okay with you, Ann? All right. Are you ready for this?
No, not.
I usually ask a question.
You gonna let?
Can I ask you a question?
Oh, I thought you were.
Not favorite ice cream flavor.
Yeah, I told him I'll go all the way.
Great answer.
Done?
Done.
I wasn't. Hooray! Woo! Yay! Awesome. You did it. Oh, didn't even hurt.
Oh, thanks. All right.
Yay. Awesome.
Do you consider yourself a dog person or a cat person?
Cat person.
You have a cat?
Yes, we do.
Congratulations.
Yay.
Thank you, guys.
All right, thank you, Dr. Mona, and very exciting moment there for the family. So awesome, and congratulations. Want to thank everyone, the speakers and attendees. We will be sharing the press release with you all next. We will also be sharing a breakdown of those numbers. Before I continue on that, I do want to open things up for questions from the reporters and those that have joined us today.
We have one question that is from Bill Freilich from 9 and 10 News. The question is, can you address long COVID and the advice for or against getting the vaccine for those teens who may have had COVID already? And also, how are long COVID effects tracked?
Excellent. Dr. Khaldoun, do you want to start with that one?
I'll get you over to Dr. Mona, one of our pediatrician. I got another doctor friend here, so I'll let her.
Yeah, so we're just starting to understand long COVID in children, but there's definitely been many cases of kids who just don't recover after a day or two from COVID. It's not just that mild flu or that bad cold, and their symptoms linger, and they keep having respiratory problems and fatigue and rashes and brain fog and all these things that we're also seeing with adults with long COVID. So we're beginning to understand that. I don't think there's a registry per se right now that's tracking long COVID in kids, but this is where it's really important to follow up with your pediatrician and to have long-term continuity of care.
We have another question. What's the guidance for giving the vaccine to 12 to 15-year-olds?
Excellent. I think, is that a Dr. Mona question as well as our resident pediatrician?
Sure. It's just like the guidance for adults. This vaccine, once again, is super safe. It's super effective. It doesn't have really any contraindications, which are reasons not to give the vaccine, except for severe allergy to a component in the vaccine. So otherwise, pretty much all kids ages 12 to 15 are able to get this vaccine. It is the same dose as the adult vaccine. And once again, it is administered 3 weeks apart.
Those are all of the questions we have at this time.
Excellent. Well, that must mean that we covered a lot of ground and with our speakers and passing along the information today. So happy to hear that. Again, for those that have joined us, the press release will be going out. And Andy Poole has placed her phone number and email into the chat if you have any other questions or need to reach out for additional information. And with that, I just thank you all for joining us today on this exciting and important announcement for our state. So everyone, take care and be well.